The Grihamedis are those whose only business is to perform welfare work for the sake of material prosperity. Such material prosperity is sometimes hampered by sinful activities, for the materialist is sure to commit sins even unintentionally in the course of discharging material duties. To get relief from such sinful reactions, the Vedas prescribe several kinds of sacrifices. It is said in the Vedas that by performing the Ashwamedha Yajna or sacrifice, one can get relief from even Brahmahatya, killing of a Brahmana. Yudhishthira Maharaj performed this Ashwamedha Yajna, but he thinks that even by performing such yajnas, it is not possible to get relief from the great sins committed. In war, either the husband or the brother or even the father or sons go to fight. And when they are killed, a fresh enmity is created, and thus a chain of actions and reactions increases, which is not possible to be counteracted even by thousands of Ashwamedha Yajnas. The way of work, karma, is like that. It creates one action and another reaction simultaneously, and thus increases the chain of material activities, binding the performer in material bondage. In the Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 9, text 27 and 28, the remedy is suggested that such actions and reactions of the path of work can be checked only when work is done on behalf of the Supreme Lord. The battle of Kurukshetra was actually fought by the will of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, as it is evident from his version, and only by his will was Yudhishthira placed on the throne of Hastinapura. Therefore, factually, no sin whatsoever touched the Pandavas, who were only the order carriers of the Lord. For others, who declare war out of personal interest, the whole responsibility lies on them. In the last few verses, we saw Mother Kunti offering her prayers to the Lord, and the Lord, being pleased with her prayers, smiled at her and was about to depart. That's when King Yudhishthira, who was lamenting, he was lamenting because he was thinking just because of him, just to enthrone him, millions of people were killed in the battle of Kurukshetra. Somehow he couldn't console himself, and then he comes in front of the Lord and expresses his grief. And here he says that how he has killed many friends of women. They may be their fathers, the sons or husbands or brothers. And thus he is feeling that he has caused an enmity which can never be counteracted. The sin committed by killing them can never be counteracted by any amount of material welfare work. Here it's very interesting to see Yudhishthira is addressing Srila. He is showing his compassion to the women. So generally, the perception is that in Vedic culture, women are seen as slaves. And this sloka refutes that perception. If they're seen as slaves, why would Yudhishthira mention about them? This shows that how responsible the king was. He was respectful towards women, and he was caring about their spiritual progress. And in the purport, Prabhupada says, the way of our karma is like that. It creates one action and another reaction simultaneously, and thus increases the chain of material activities, binding the performer in material bondage. See, the way the laws of karma work, it is supremely complicated to understand. The general understanding is that you do good work, you get good reactions, you get happiness. You do bad work, you do bad to others, you get bad reactions, you get unhappiness. Now the question of what is good and what is bad is also relative. And we'll assume that we are following the Vedic literature of Karma Kanda and do these works perfectly. Even then, now we are talking. There's so many microbes killed because of our talk. Or when you walk, there will be so many tiny insects, or maybe an ant being killed. So we get reaction for that. And how do you atone to that? For our sufferings, of course, one of the ways is atonement. Every day, morning especially, when you switch on the TV, the channels broadcast one astrologer coming or some Jyotisha coming. He will tell you, oh, you have this problem, you please go to this temple, you did this work, you will be free from that. And that is going on perpetually because problems are also perpetual. Of course, there are some exceptional cases. I was noticing one family coming to our temple regularly. And I asked them why. No, my astrologer told me, for relief, you have to go to ISKCON temple for 40 weeks. Of course, as I said, this is exceptional because he is directing toward the Supreme Lord. Or else these laws of karmas are very complicated. Just to understand how complicated it is, there is a nice incident in Bhagavatam. There was a king by name King Sharyati. He was the son of the Manu. And he had a beautiful young daughter by name Sukanya. So one day they decided to go to forest and meet a Muni by name Chavana Muni. Chavana Muni is very austere, very powerful. So they wanted to meet him and seek his blessings. When they reached the hermitage, Sukanya's attention went on to an earthworm hole that was there near the hermitage. She saw two glowing objects. So she took a stick and pierced it, and blood started oozing. And immediately as a reaction, the king and all the soldiers there, they suffered from constipation and they could not pass urine. And they're wondering how this happened. Who has committed that sin that we are suffering this reaction? And of course,
Kanya admits her mistake, and the sage also pardons her when the king allows his daughter to be married to the sage. Anyway, the point here is the reaction that they felt. No, they may question, why I should suffer for somebody's serious thing? Why? So we don't know how the laws work, the relationship. There's so many factors that matters. So that's why the laws of karma are very complicated to understand. And in Bhagavatam, Prabhupada mentions that the Supreme Lord has so dexterously formulated and applied the laws of nature governing punishment and reward for the human beings, such that the living beings are discouraged from committing sins, at the same time encouraged to do goodness, without interfering the free will of the jiva. So Lord has designed these laws. Now you may ask, just like in the purport we read, how it creates one action and another reaction simultaneously and thus increases the chain of material reactions causing bondage. That means you do one action, because of this reaction. Because of that reaction, you do one more action and reaction. So that's a chain. Now how do you come out of this? You might feel, why is Lord so cruel that he has formed such a complicated law that we are unable to come out of this? There is a nice example how to understand this. Imagine you are boarded a Air India plane. You are going to Delhi. The flight has taken off. Now because your previous action of boarding Air India flight, you cannot do anything but you have to go to Delhi. So you are going after half an hour, 45 minutes, you will hear a captain saying, "Good morning everybody, we are cruising at 35,000 feet above the sea level. The temperature in Hyderabad which we are nearing is," he says. And then you remember, oh, I have to meet somebody in Hyderabad. And say, "Oh, good morning captain, can I get down here? Can you open the door?" Not possible. Now because of your previous action of boarding this flight, you have to go till Delhi. But within the flight you can do so many things. You can talk nicely to your fellow passenger. You can build relation with him. Probably you can strike a business deal. Or you can abuse your fellow passenger or crew there and face a life ban. So there is choice, correct? So depending on your action in the flight, there are reactions. In the same way, because of past action, we have got a particular body. We are put in a particular situation. We are granted certain quantity of happiness and distress. But still, there is choice within this body, within whatever you have, how you utilize it, which will determine your future action and reactions. That means there is choice. There is choice how to do, what you have. By karma, you may be gifted with 1,000 rupees per day. That is karma. You may deserve 1 lakh, but you get 1,000. But what you do, how you utilize this 1,000 today will determine the next reaction. So there is choice here. So the Supreme Lord has given choice. The choice to decide clearly whether you want to develop love of Godhead or you want to satisfy your senses perpetually. The choice, that free will is always with us. And the Supreme Lord respects this free will. So we should remember this choice is always with us. Sometimes you ask people, please do some seva to the Lord. You ask some donation to the Lord. They say, Swamiji, when Krishna desires, we'll do it. Or we ask people, why don't you chant rounds? No, when Krishna desires, it will happen. So Krishna will desire, but before that you should desire first. Because there is choice. Krishna has given you the choice. There's one boy, he was a lazy boy, asked his mother, "Mother, give me water." His mother was busy and said, "Son, why don't you take yourself?" Then son pestered, no, you give me water. If you ask me once more, I'll slap you. Now the boy has choice what to do. He chose one thing. He said, "Mother, when you come to slap, give me water." So there is choice. In our life there is choice. Every moment there is choice. There is choice on Sunday morning whether you come to the temple and hear Bhagavatam, attend Kirtans. You can do so many things. Correct? So this choice or this free will is our property. If there is anything that is our property, I would say it is our free will. And Krishna will never interfere with this free will. And he will respect, he is waiting this free will. Now you might wonder why Krishna has given this free will. Correct? We are trying to say Krishna is Lord, somebody else is Lord. Why Krishna has given this free will? Let's understand with a nice story. There was a husband who always felt he was displeased with his wife. He always felt, wife is not treating him rightly, giving displeasure. He goes to his friend who was a magician. And he asked, please give me a magic wand by which I can control my wife. He said, well, okay, take this band. So he goes home and uses a magic wand. The wife, come here, she comes, get water, okay, wash my clothes, done. And after a few days he realizes, array, there is displeasure again. This is she has become a robo. Real love is when voluntarily appreciating my good qualities, she has to be with me, she has to serve me. Only then the real pleasure comes. In the same way, Krishna can appear here, he can show his rupa, but again he wants to give us choice. You see, I will give you books, I have given my words in Gita. I have sent my devotees. He has sent Srila Prabhupada. We have devotees, we have Shastras. But I will give you choice, whether you want to read, associate and approach me, or you want to be independent. I want to give that independence to you. If you wish you want independent, you be independent. Be in this world. Suffer. So this choice, this independent Krishna gives us. He wants us to understand who is Krishna, what are his wonderful qualities, what is his position with respect to this material world, how Krishna and we are so interrelated. Our relationship, he wants us to understand with full knowledge. Out of love and affection, he wants us to approach him. That's why Krishna has given free will. He has given us choice. And it is up to us how we utilize this choice. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is a very nice instance which says that how even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu respected this free will of a devotee. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu desired to go on a tour of South India, and then he started convincing his devotees that how it's important for him to spread this Sankirtana, and he has to go, and he has to go alone. And this was not accepted by everyone. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after taking sannyas, he was practicing so much austerity that it was almost impossible to practice. And seeing this, the devotees were greatly aggrieved. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could not tolerate this. But as a sannyasi, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had to practice this to form an example in society. So that's why he requested them, please let me go alone this time. Then Lord Nityananda gave a last proposal. My Lord, when you go on a tour chanting and dancing, your hand will have a bead. You might raise your hands and dance. Who will carry your water pot, your cloths? So that's why, if you wish, I want to send one devotee with you who will just hold your cloths, a simple person who will not disturb you. And you can go on with your chanting and Sankirtan mission. Chaitanya accepts this. And the devotee, a simple brahmachari by name Kala Krishna Dasa, was assigned. Kala Krishna Dasa, nice devotee, simple devotee, he carried the orders of Chaitanya. And when they went on the tour, at one place, there were these nomads. They were called as Bhattataris, and they were in a mission to increase their population. And hence, they were alluring any young men who come there with their women there, and that's how they used to increase the population. And this Kala Krishnadasa was attracted to the women there, and he almost joined their camp. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu forcefully pulled him out of that camp and went on the tour, and then he came back to Jagannath Puri. And then he called his confidential associates, Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Prabhu, Swarup Damodar, and he were discussing about the behavior of Kala Krishna Dasa, and he says, I reject him from today. Kala Krishna was crying, and in the purport, Prabhupada writes that how you might be with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally, but still if you are not alert, there's every chance that Maya can take over you. And here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu allowed him to exercise that minute independence which is his property. And because he misused it, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rejected it. So this independence that the Lord has given us, it is something very, very special. It is our property. And when we rightly utilize this free will, the independence, in the service of the Lord for advancing spiritually, only then we are best utilizing this human form of life. And this independence is not present in lower animals. It is nil or maybe very little. Imagine you go to a Banerghatta National Park. You assemble the tigers, leopards and lion, and you take a presentation of vegetarianism. Why don't you be vegetarians? Cannot. It's not possible. They're lower animals. They got a particular body. Their biological cycle is fixed. According to that instincts they act. And that's why, because there is no choice, there is no reaction also to whatever they do. When a tiger kills a deer, it has no reaction. But he has to undergo its Janma Mrityu Jara, the cycle in that body, and then progress to next body. And after passing through 84 lakh species of life, the Atma enters human body. And only in this human body, you have got this free will, which you can utilize for progressing spiritually and realize God, develop love of Godhead, or you can degrade yourself. Now I know we have been listening about this for quite a long time, free will, service, correct? But sometimes we also feel, why haven't we progressed to the level that Gita and Bhagavatam wants us to be? Sama lostrashma kanchanaha. He says a person who's advanced, he sees a piece of gold and pebble on equal level. Correct? Somebody is saying yes. If somebody is in that level, let's have a test. If you have a golden ring and watch, please give it here. Now nobody is rising. So the point is, how do we come to that equanimity level, where the sukha, dukkha, irrespective of what happens in nature, you are in tranquility. We hear classes, right? Day after day we might hear classes. Why? In Bhagavad Gita 6th chapter, Krishna gives us some clues that how to rise to that level. He says, Jnana Vijnana Triptatma Kutastha Vijitendriha Yukta iti Uchyate Yogi Samaloshtra Shmakanchanaha. He says, Jnana Vijnana Triptatma. If you want to elevate yourself to that level of spirituality, if you want your Atma to be Trupta, then this Jnana, it is not only Jnana which is important, it is Vijnana that is important. It is not just the theoretical knowledge that matters, it is the realized knowledge that matters. You have to realize the knowledge. Only when you realize this, it is possible for you to understand or elevate yourself to the level which Gita wants us to be elevated. One simple test, whether you realize this knowledge. How do we react when we embrace adversities in life? When there are challenges, when there are difficulties in life? How do we react? The way we react determines whether our knowledge is just theoretical or realized. One devotee used to come every day, chant nicely, read, attend Bhagavatam every day. All of a sudden stop coming to temple. What happened? Then he revealed, no, I came to temple, the security stopped me from taking darshan. I am a devotee chanting and coming to Bhagavatam every day. Why he can stop me? See, some challenge came, security came over. So the theoretical knowledge should be realized. Let's see how the realized persons face the adversities. Let's take the example of King Chitraketu. King Chitraketu was a pure devotee of Lord. He was so powerful that he could talk to the Lord directly. So one day after talking to the Lord, he was passing through Mount Meru in Kailas. There he saw Lord Shiva embracing Mother Parvati in the presence of sages, the Gandharvas and the Chanaras. And he started laughing. And Mother Parvati was offended and she cursed him. Chitraketu, in the next life you will be born as a demon, you will be degraded as a demon. Imagine the king is a devotee and now he will be degraded as a demon. So there's an adversity, there's a challenge in front of him. Now how did he react? Of course, King Chitraketu was quite powerful to counteract this, but he accepted it. And next life is born Vritasura. And after accepting this, he said, very interestingly he said, in this material world, which is made of external energy of the Supreme Lord, one is sometimes cursed and sometimes favored. And thus, he sometimes enjoys in upper planetary systems and suffers in lower planetary systems. But all this upper and lower enjoy and suffer is the same because all these are happening in this material world and they are all temporary. And the Supreme Lord is the ultimate controller. You see, this is the symptom of a person who is realized knowledge. So it is the Gita or whatever, the spiritual knowledge is no more a theory, he has realized knowledge. You know, when Prahalada was tormented by Hiranyakashipu and his men, when he was thrown out of hills, when he was put in a pit of poisonous snakes, when he was trampled by elephants, he only prayed to the Lord. He depended on the Lord. And this was it was a realized knowledge that he had. Not that some theoretically he was speaking a Krishna is here, there. There were adversities because of his realized knowledge. He could practice, he was in that equanimous stage. So now the question is, how to progress from theoretical to realized knowledge? What is the conversion factor which will help us progress from theoretical to realized knowledge? In Bhagavad Gita, in the same purport of the verse which I just quoted, Prabhupada says, he says two things. One must be fortunate enough to associate with a person who is in pure consciousness. And the second thing, a Krishna conscious person has realized knowledge. He is telling, a Krishna conscious person has realized knowledge because he is satisfied with pure devotional service. So that means it is this service to the Supreme Lord that will help us elevate from realized knowledge, elevate from theoretical knowledge to realized knowledge. Unless we engage in devotional service to the Lord, it is not possible for us to elevate to realized knowledge. Or it remains theoretical. Year after year we come to Bhagavatam, we take prasadam and we go away. But how to make it realized? It is a service. Now you have heard about the free will and how to exercise the free will. Now if you want to realize this, you want to make it, if you're serious, then we have to engage in service of the Lord. It is only this devotional service that will help us to realize this knowledge. One perfect example is the Narada Muni. He was a simple son of a maid servant, illiterate, uneducated. So when the sages sat there, he used to listen to them. But we don't know whether he, because illiterate, he is not intelligent. They are having very intellectual level discussions. He just heard. But then, once they left the place, one day his mother went to the forest to fetch wood and she was bitten by snake and she died. See, it's an adversity. A simple boy, an illiterate boy who was just listening to what the sages said. When she died of a snake bite, Narada Muni was not at all morose. Like a Parivrajaka, he traveled through mountains and cities and rivers and lakes and towns and cities. And then he sat for meditation. And finally, in the next life, he became Narada Muni. So, what is that special thing in Narada? A simple boy, the theoretical knowledge that he heard, how it became a realized knowledge in him that the greatest adversity of even losing his mother he could tolerate and progress. One good thing that Narada did was, after the sages had their meal, of course he took the remnant, he did the service of cleaning that place. So he performed the devotional service there. So the theoretical knowledge that he was hearing, and because he was doing the devotional service of hearing and then engaging in serving the sages there, that helped him to realize that knowledge. So it is the simple act of service to the Lord that will help us to realize the knowledge. And service, that is why Prabhupada says, he quotes initially how to do service, what kind of service to do. While quoting a sloka from 6th chapter, there is a sloka Krishna, Arurukshur Muner Yogam Karma Karanam Uchyate. In the beginning stages, in the neophyte stages, Karma Karanam Uchyate, it is the work that will elevate us. That means you have to, Prabhupada says in this verse lecture, he says that in neophyte stage we should look out for service. What service can I do physically, very objectively? In the temple we should look out, we should seek out for such service. Then we think, okay, let's chant and read and think at one place, sit at one place and think of pastimes of Lord. Well, we are not in that stage. In the neophyte stage, you have to practically, physically, objectively do service to the Lord. It should be visible, visibly do service. Only then we can progress quickly. So the physical service to the Lord is the most important factor. The moment we do physical service, then you will see, yes, whatever you have read, you begin to understand. Or you read somewhere, you wouldn't have understood. But because service, at one time, it flashes. I remember there was one, I know one person, is a doctor. He's having nursing home, very accomplished, very intelligent. He has been reciting Bhagavad Gita from past 55 years. You name the verse, you just quote the sloka number, he will recite the verse. But he admits that I have not understood anything from Gita. Why? It has remained theoretical. For him to do practical, just some intellectual thing is not enough. You have to practically engage in the service of the Lord. So the devotional service is that conversion factor which he was missing. The moment you do 55 years of reciting Bhagavad Gita, he said, Swamiji, I stole time from my busy work, sat for the sessions. I went to various Swamijis of Dvaita, Advaita, Visishtadvaita. Still I am unable to understand. Why? Sir, where is devotional service to the Lord? That is actual conversion factor. That is the catalyst. So this devotional service is the most important factor. And here, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also stresses on how, just like in the purport I read out, one should be fortunate enough to associate with a person who is in pure consciousness. That means you have to do this service in the association of devotees, in the direction of a pure devotee. Direction matters a lot. You cannot take any Bhagavad Gita and read. The direction of pure devotee matters a lot. Who's your guru matters. In fact, this principle of who is your guru is also exemplified by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Once when he was in North India tour, he goes to Vrindavan and he excavates the pastimes where Radha and Krishna performed, the places where they performed their pastimes. And then he goes to Mathura. When he goes to Mathura, he sees the deity of Keshavji, which was worshipped thousands of years back. And he gets in ecstasy and starts dancing. And seeing this, many people started dancing. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu notices one Brahmana dancing ecstatically. And after this event, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu talks to him privately. And he asks him, I am seeing good devotional symptoms in you. Tell me, how is this possible? Then he says, my Lord, some time back, a great devotee by name Madhavendra Puri visited Mathura. I had the fortune of serving him. I even invited him to my house. He took lunch in my house and then he instructed me on principles of devotional service and he accepted me as his disciple. The moment Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard, oh, Madhavendra Puri is your spiritual master, he immediately offered obeisance to that Brahmana. And that Brahmana was shocked, oh my Lord, you are a sannyasi, how can you offer obeisance to me? Chaitanya says, you are a disciple of Madhavendra Puri. You see? So who is your guru matters. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu respected him. He even offered obeisance because he was the disciple of Madhavendra Puri. So we are all fortunate enough to have taken the shelter of Srila Prabhupada. And when we progress, when the devotees see that, they'll ask you, who's your guru? They'll say, I'm Prabhupada's disciple. Oh, you're Prabhupada's disciple. Yes, you'll be appreciated, you'll be accepted by the Lord. So, who is your guru matters. So that is why Prabhupada stresses that one should do this devotional service under the guidance of a pure devotee. Pure devotee directly or through system. through his system of temple. Prabhupada has created a system so that all of us can get this opportunity to serve him. And the service can be in our own simple ways. One way is, yes, come to temple, seek out, go to devotees, seek out a service. We had Bhagavatam, after that take prasadam, and then we can go to devotee. Please give us some service, any service. What do we have? Or when you, okay, what about other days when you're at home, you're at work? Very simple. You have your colleagues, talk to them, just say, oh, there's Chandan Alankara going on. You know, Chandan Yatra going on in temple. Lord Narasimha is adorned with very nice Chandan paste. Why don't you come? Or something you heard which you liked, just share one story, inspire him. Or we all have smartphones, right? Last week I was in Bombay. I saw a poor boy, he was cycling, but he was having a smartphone on WhatsApp and taking a selfie. Correct? It is a selfie age, smartphone age. So you the smartphones propagate Chandan Yatra pic. Just send it, Facebook, WhatsApp. Now WhatsApp, there is some status now, right? You can live, people can know what you're doing. You say, I am in temple, take a selfie and send it. What is there? You take a photo of devotees dancing, so let people see. Simple little services. And the social media is so powerful now. So I know I'm sure most of you might be active. So use the social media to propagate about Krishna consciousness. So that is simple little service. That is devotional service. And especially when you talk to people and when you inspire them, when you help them transform their hearts, nothing better than this. Krishna immediately accepts. Immediately your theoretical knowledge will become realized knowledge. Very clear. You know. So that is why to begin with it should be very practical. You should see it. You should physically do it. You know. Take for example kirtans. When Arti is going on, when kirtans are going on, it is always advisable that we dance. We should dance nicely, jump and dance, sweat it out. Just standing and seeing and trying to absorb our mind is not, it's almost impossible for us. You know, that only pure devotee can do. A pure devotee, that's why we should take guidance from pure devotees. In fact, there is a nice, in Bhagavatam, 4th canto, there is a description about the power of a pure devotee. Who is a pure devotee? It says, although when a pure devotee speaks, the articulation of his voice may resemble the sound of this material sky. Because he speaks English words, 26, those alphabets, you know, the 26 letters. It is a combination of these three. But the voice is spiritually very powerful because it touches the particles of the saffron dust on the lotus feet of the Lord. As soon as the sleeping living entity hears the powerful voice emanating from the mouth of a pure devotee, he immediately, what happens? He immediately remembers his eternal relationship with the Lord, although up until that moment he had forgotten everything. That is the power of the voice of a pure devotee. By just hearing, you might be sleeping till that moment. You will immediately get up. And get up for what? Developing, building that relationship with Lord. That is a power. That's why such pure devotee says, now Prabhupada says, yes, while kirtans we have to dance. Because it's difficult to focus our mind. Even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu encouraged dancing. He always encouraged dancing. Once he went to a place called Alalnath. And then he saw the deity there and he started dancing ecstasy. So there were people around and they never saw Chaitanya or met Chaitanya before. But they were attracted to his bodily features. It was glowing like a moon. His bodily complexion was very attractive. It was like molten gold. He was perspiring. There was tears rolling down from his eyes. And seeing them, they also started dancing. They were infected. All the first time they are seeing. In fact, it is said during the Ratha Yatra time, when Chaitanya used to dance, there was one devotee by name Shubhananda. He was one among the Kirtan players during the Ratha Yatra, and he observes that how Chaitanya used to dance so heavily that the foam used to come out. That should be a standard of dancing. The more and more we dance, the more and more purification it happens. The more and more the knowledge that we hear become realized. Or else it is very difficult. It is very difficult to focus the mind on the holy name, on the Lord. You see? Now people come, you just observe. They have quick darshan and go away. Although it is advised that how one should start from lotus feet of the Lord, slowly go up to the face, observe his jewelry, the color of the dress. But quick darshan and go away. Because mind is chanchala, restless. It is taking us away from all this. And we also don't know what is focused mind. We may think, no, I am thinking of Lord. Now, what is actually thinking? What is actually focusing our mind on the Lord? There's a very, very nice story which is given in Nectar of Devotion to say how focused should our mind be on the Lord. What is meant by this focus? You all heard this story, but I'll like to repeat it again. There was a town called Pratishthanapura on bank of river Godavari. There's a Brahmana, poor Brahmana, and he had a desire to serve the Lord opulently. And he didn't have money. And so every day he used to, in his mind, he used to do meditation. He used to think of getting waters from the 7 rivers, 7 sacred rivers, using a golden jug, which is embedded with, studded with diamonds. He used to go to all the places, get it. And then he used to decorate the body of the Lord with very nice, very costly cloths. And very opulently he used to offer to the Lord. And then one day, he had made kheer in his mind to be offered to the Lord. And somehow he was dissatisfied. With the kheer, it tastes best when it is cold. So he wanted to touch and find out whether it is cold so that he can offer. The moment he touched it, actually physically his fingers got burnt. This is the power of focusing our mind on the Lord. Can we come to this stage? What is this meditation on Lord? We are very, very far away from this. But thankfully, Prabhupada has cleared this. Prabhupada said, for us, the meditation is physically engaging in the service of the Lord. If you engage physically in the service of the Lord, then this is our real meditation. This meditation is enough for us to go back to Krishna. Just like the Brahmana, when he burnt his fingers, the Supreme Lord came in Pushpaka Vimana and took him back to Godhead. So we can also achieve that by just doing one simple meditation of physically engaging in the service of the Lord. So Prabhupada has made our problem very simple. By just engaging in the service of the Lord, yes, we can achieve the perfection of this human life. That's why there are other ways to reach it. Even if you take Ashtanga Yoga, the description of Samadhi. The Samadhi says, Samadhi state means your mind should be free, fully restrained from material mental activities by practice of yoga. Now physically maybe we are trying to restrain, eat prasadam, do this, do that. Now material mental activities, the mind also you should control such a way that it doesn't think of material activities. So difficult. But in the purport, Prabhupada made it very simple and clear. No worry. Here, whatever Krishna has said, when one's mind is completely restrained from material mental activity practice of yoga, Prabhupada is saying the yoga is Bhakti Yoga, that is Krishna consciousness. The moment you do Krishna consciousness, you chant the holy name, you hear about the Lord, and you engage practically in the service of the Lord, our mind is automatically restrained from material mental activities. It is automatic. So that's why this process is very, very simple and at the same time very sublime. So that's why in this verse, again Prabhupada says how Pandavas, because they did devotional service, they exercise their free will to work under the direction of the Lord. Therefore, factually no sin whatsoever touched the Pandavas, who are only the order carriers of the Lord. That is the only way to come out of the complicated action-reaction cycle. If you want to come out of bondage, that is the only way. And that's what Krishna reiterates in Bhagavad Gita 9th chapter. Yat karoshi yad asnasi yad juhoshi dadati yat tapasyasi kaunte yat kurushva madarpanam. O son of Kunti, whatever you do whatever you do, no problem. And whatever you eat and whatever you offer and whatever you give away, whatever austerities you perform, these austerities. For example, fasting. Many people fast. Somebody has, I fast every Tuesday. Why? Because I want to become thin. Now, Krishna is telling, even this austerity do as offering to me. What is that? Let's do austerity. Let's fast on Ekadasi days, on festival days. You ask them, no, only Tuesday. Ekadasi festival I eat, I don't mind. Tuesdays I do. So he's telling that austerity you do it as an offering to me. Then what will happen? In this way, you will be freed from all reactions to good and evil deeds. Even good reactions and at both you will be free. And by this what happens? You will come back to me. So in nutshell, in this verse it is, in the purport also Prabhupada has reiterated that how this loss of karma is very complicated to meddle with, to understand and to come out of this bondage. The best process is to exercise our free will in engaging the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead under the guidance of a devotee. One note is, you have to engage physically, practically, objectively in the service of the Lord to see a tangible progress, to elevate yourself from theoretical knowledge to practical knowledge. And with this, when we engage in the service of the Lord, physically, practically, it is sure shot that we will progress on the strength of the Shastras. That at the end of this life, we can achieve the perfection of life by which we realize who we are, we realize who is Krishna, and hence go back to Him. With this, I'd like to stop. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.